Hello, and thanks for joining us. Our guest today is a multi-award-winning author. His last book, Trust, won this year's prestigious Pulitzer Prize for fiction. He's in France as it's out in French. Please welcome to the show, Hernan Diaz. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. Such a pleasure.
Congratulations on the success of the book.
Many thanks.
It is about the taboo of money.
It is.
It's rarely the subject of fiction, and writers famously have very little of it.
Yeah.
Why were you interested in this subject?
Well, firstly, because of all the things you just mentioned, I thought how bizarre that, our culture, American culture, idolizes and fetishizes money and elevates it to this kind of transcendental place, and yet we have kind of consistently refused to talk about it. That's the first reason. The second reason is that I feel that all of our social relationships are mediated to some extent by money. And yet, again, we feel very priggish around that topic. We just don't talk about it. So this omnipresence, together with this feeling of it being a taboo, was to me very compelling.
And both of your novels explore iconic moments in American history. Trust is set in the 20s and 30s. In the Distance was set in the California Gold Rush. What draws you to these sort of American mythologies?
It was honestly, it was not intentional. The first book, yes, takes place during the Gold Rush, and it seems like there is a continuity between the first and the second book. And for sure there is, but there isn't like a hidden manifesto someplace, and there wasn't a master plan. It just unfolded that way. And I think I'm very drawn to these moments in history that we fetishize and that we think we know about, but on closer inspection we don't. And this allows me as a novelist also to play with these preconceptions readers may have, and upend them in hopefully fun, interesting ways.
One of the joys of the book is that it's set in 4 different parts: a novel, a manuscript, a memoir, and a diary. It's very unique. Mm-hmm. That must have been a plan from the start.
You know what? It wasn't. The novel started out as a pretty straightforward, narrative, but then I'm really drawn to framed and nesting narratives. I can't explain why. It's just the thing that I like. And the book, I discovered very quickly, became about voice very centrally, because as I was doing archival research into the world of finance in the United States, I confirmed, it wasn't a shock, but it was very intense to see it so eloquently, that women have been completely erased from the story. They never have had a voice in these grand narratives of capital. So I thought the issue of voice, who has one, who's been denied one, became very crucial to me. And instead of merely thematizing it, I thought it would be, again, more interesting to enact it formally, and hence this 4-part structure in different voices.
And the title of the book, Trust, is a financial term. Mm-hmm. It's also a legal relationship. What do you think is the role of trust between the reader and the writer?
It's essential, as it is essential also in any kind of financial system, by the way. They all collapse without trust. I think reading is always an act of trust, and that's why I, as an author, try to be very mindful of that a trust that the reader is placing in me. Or in the book, rather. So although this book shifts very drastically from, one point of view to the other, one voice to the next, I'm very respectful of the reader's intelligence, and all the elements to put together this puzzle are there. They are available. I mean, there's no rabbit coming out of any kind of top hat.
And one thing that I hadn't realized before is there are many financial terms like trusts, bonds, securities, futures, that also have much bigger life meanings, don't they?
Yeah, I like these sort of portmanteaus, these terms that are semantically layered, that have many meanings, and indeed, the titles of the books within the book have this double resonance between some kind of financial contract, transaction, or operation, and an emotional dimension. Yes.
And who are the couple in the book, for people who are watching at home and want to know a bit more about the characters?
Well, this is the story of potentially the wealthiest couple in the world in the 20s, in this crazed economic bubble and privilege and excess of the 1920s. They're at the very cusp of this world. How they got to that place is exactly at the core of the enigma of the novel, and these competing narratives, some place between these competing narratives lies the truth, and everyone has their own version of this story.
And tell me, when you started writing this book, how much did you know about financial markets? Did you have to do loads of research? Did you...
Well, I'm an academic. I come from the humanities. There's nothing farther removed from the world of profit than that. So I knew very little, and I had to school myself in this, and I did so. Thankfully, again, I'm a scholar of some sorts, so I have some training in archival work. So I read a lot of financial treatises and books and press and congressional hearings, and you have no idea. It was so intense. A lot of it very dull, but a lot of it quite fascinating. And I learned about finance, but also in the vocabulary of that period, the 20s and 30s.
Now, the book has been an immense success. Did you know that your book is actually on BookTok, which is sort of the book version of TikTok?
When it comes to these things, I feel like I live in the 19th century. I have no idea.
Well, you have been for a while.
Oh, really? That's great.
We're writing this. But there's lots of people who've been talking about your book on BookTok. Now, the platform TikTok has become a powerful tool to promote new book releases to young adults. It's known as BookTok. Many young readers promote their favourite reads and authors. Monty Francis has the story.
Chloe has a passion in life. She can't resist a good book.
You can try talking to me for hours, but I'm not listening. I'm in my own world.
The 21-year-old has a career in communications, but her pastime is to share her favorite books with her 40,000 followers on TikTok.
Today I'm going to share the books that touched me the most.
About half of TikTok's users are between the ages of 16 and 21, a young public discovering literature thanks to the influencers of their generation.
You record your post in your bedroom and you don't really realize that it's going to have such an impact. Then you have people tell you, "Oh, I read this book thanks to you and I loved it." And then you realize the impact it can have.
Chloe is not alone. She's among thousands of other young adults sharing their favorite reads. There were 900,000 such posts on TikTok last year, generating some 3 billion views. Born during the pandemic, the movement was dubbed BookTok, and the platform even made its own commercial to publicize the platform.
BookTok, c'est la communauté littéraire de TikTok, et ça va vous faire redécouvrir la littérature.
If one genre dominates over the others on BookTok, it's the romance novel, something we found evidence of in this Parisian bookstore.
I think I'm going to buy this one because I saw a recommendation on TikTok.
I saw the little tab of BookTok that gives the trends, and I've discovered new books that way.
Book editors and booksellers have both taken note of how BookTok can impact sales.
There's a new audience interested in literature now, and we've probably doubled our sales of certain books.
This year, TikTok partnered with the Literature Festival of Paris, attracting new readers by word of mouth, the oldest trick in the book.
It is quite a powerful promotional tool. What do you think about that idea of promoting books on a social media?
Look, I think anything that draws people to books, I'm all in. I'm totally in favor. I think it's fantastic.
Just before we finish, I wanted to talk a bit about your background. This is your second novel. You were born in Argentina.
That's right.
You grew up in Sweden. You now live in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And talking about living in the 19th century, is it true that you write with a pen?
It is true that I write with a pen. Yes. And it comes with me everywhere. Yes.
And is it the same pen you've had for a long time?
It's always the same pen. I've had this pen for almost 30 years now, 27 years or so, yeah.
So holding on to the traditions of writing.
That's right.
Writers gone by. Now, and just before we go, we always end the show with our guest's cultural pick of the moment.
Yeah.
And what have you chosen for us?
I've chosen, they have just discovered, they have found some recordings of John Coltrane with Eric Dolphy from 1961 live at the Village Gate. And it's a very rare thing. And they're playing with Elvin Jones, McCoy Tyner, Jimmy Garrison. And it's an astounding recording. It will be released by Impulse very, very soon, like in a few days. And but you can listen to it online already, like excerpts.
Okay, well, we're going to have an excerpt now. We're going to end the show with it. We're going to leave you with John Coltrane and Impressions. Thank you so much for watching. Hernan Diaz's book is called Trust. It's out in French in August, and it's published by Éditions d'Olivier. See you next time.
France 24, your window on the world.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.